When you get new fish you've been wanting for like 2 years on a Saturday, you jump up and down. Excited to add these guys to the fish cave. These are a group of 8 Neolamprologus Multifasciatus, also known as the multi-shell dweller. Believe it or not, these are not the first shell dwellers that we have in the fish cave. Last year, I picked up a group of the gold ocellatus. Haven't talked about them much, but they're actually breeding, and we'll talk about them in a future video. But these, I've been wanting these for actually years. I knew about these way before I even knew the gold ocellatus existed. They've been hard to get a hold of, and I finally was able to pick up a group of 8. Looks like the Shelleys have took it upon themselves to do some construction, flipping some shells upside down, digging out some pits, building some mounds and stuff. I feel like they've all gotten established. I believe I have some males and females. I don't believe these guys form pairs necessarily, but they do colony breed. And essentially the male and female will both go inside the shell. Female will throw the eggs in there, and then kind of the male will release his milt, and as they're exiting, the kind of reverse action will suck the milt in and fertilize the eggs. So no breeding action yet, at least that I've noticed. I've only had these guys for a little over a week, but they did come from a trusted source. They're really healthy. They're not young. They're definitely, if they're not sexually mature, they're close to it. So we shouldn't have to wait that long. We're not going to be waiting months and months and months or a year to grow these out. They're fairly difficult to sex. I've heard that, size difference, although I'm not sure when these were all born. Clearly that one in the front to the left is larger than the other two, but if that one is 6 months older or a few months older, that could be a female and those could be males. I'm not really sure. To tell these apart from the other striped shell dweller, the Cichlid, these guys have a lighter body with dark stripes, and the Cichlid has a darker body with light stripes. That's the easiest way to tell them apart. Also, you can look at the different lines or the vertical stripes on the gill plate. That's one way to tell them, but the easiest, I think, is whether it's the darker body with lighter stripes, or in this case, the Multifasciatus is the lighter body with the darker stripes. Our water here is not super hard, but definitely on the harder side of neutral. But we have these guys in with some escargot shells. There's some calcium creating kind of coral substrate, crushed coral, but it works well for these guys. Typically these are kept with like a fine sand, but as you can see, there's some fine sand mixed in. They don't seem to have too much issue moving around the larger gravel along with the sand. The Multifasciatus have done quite the reconstruction job of the tank here. Literally dug out this huge pit, and a bunch of the shells fell down there, and they kind of made like a little pyramid over the pile of rocks. And then these guys over here did some digging of their own, but not as crazy. Pretty insane though. It's not even just regular sand. There's some decent pieces of coral and crushed coral and shells and stuff that these little guys moved and shoveled up that pyramid up there. I have got some mosquito larvae for our Multifasciatus African cichlid shell dwellers, and I've never fed them some live food, so let's see how they react to these mosquito larvae from the ponds out back. I think they like them. Live food, guys, it's the best. I've found them to be very easy to care for. I've been keeping the colony of 8 in a 20-gallon long. You hear it a lot, but I think with this fish, especially since they live in the shells on the bottom of the tank, the footprint of the tank is very important. So you're going to be able to get a lot more out of a 20-gallon long with them than, let's say, a 20-gallon high. I believe that keeping them in a species only definitely helps me out. Not that you can't keep them with other fish, but in my opinion, if you want to be the most successful and especially breed a fish, species only is the way to go. Yes, of course, that means a lot less fish in a tank, a lot less fish in your room. You're going to need a lot more tanks. I get it. But in my opinion, that is the way to be the most successful. Not saying you can't be successful keeping these with other fish. I plan to do so eventually once I get them breeding. But for right now, these guys will stay in their 20-gallon long with a sponge filter. These guys are tank raised, and I spoke to the breeder. He said that they were kept in kind of like a garage condition, so I'm doing the same. I'll monitor them, but we've had them for a few months now, and the temperature has already, swung from the low 70s up to about 80, and they've been fine. We actually picked up these fish at the end of February, and I've been just taking filming little shots of them here and there. Still no breeding activity, although I recently did remove all of the snails from the tank, or at least the vast majority of them. And I think that may have been a reason why, because there was a lot of ram's horn snails in the tank. I've been upping the feeding of some frozen foods, and hopefully we'll have babies soon. Check out some more Lake Tanganyikan cichlid fish right here. Some other wild fish tank antics right there. As always, I appreciate you watching, especially to the end. Stay positive and stay passionate.